اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
If I can ask my young listeners to come forward, please.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على النبي الأمي أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسول منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
See, part of this exercise, I am sorry to use the word exercise here. It is our life's purpose, this exercise. And I will say it again, the part of this exercise is the parent and children sitting together. And while the parent listens attentively to that part which is meant for the children therefore would listen attentively to that part which is meant for the parent. It is a matter of give and take between the two of you. So please keep this gathering together. And I was very pleased to see that yesterday the children stayed in the Urdu speeches. It doesn't matter if they are not paying attention fully, as long as the sounds of the words are going in their ears. Something is being registered. So it is very important. The togetherness of this gathering is very important. That is why we are here. Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Our discussion on the beginning ayat, the first two verses of Surah Al-Jumu'ah, chapter 62 of the Quran, continued. Yesterday we discussed some attributes of Allah as stated in the first verse and the meaning of the word Ummi, which has been used for the Prophet Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Today we will discuss the last word, the last verse, which is Dalalul Mubin. Having said that Allah is great, mighty, wise, and it is He who has raised a prophet among those who are known as the Ummiyun. And indeed, although they were in a manifest wrong before He came, this is the last part. This word, manifest wrong, warrants our attention. What does this mean, manifest wrong? A wrong which is very clear. If the wrong is clear, the logical conclusion is that if you realize that you have made a mistake, you immediately correct yourself. That is what an intelligent person would do. So if they were, as a community, as a nation, as a people, doing something wrong, which was so clear, which was so apparent that it is wrong, why didn't somebody stand up and say, listen, you're doing something wrong, stop doing it? Why didn't it happen? Why did Allah have to raise a prophet to correct that wrong? It's the same human being. People are the same. The intelligence level is roughly the same as it was 1300 years ago. Yes, knowledge has changed, science has changed, but the intelligence and understanding of man is roughly the same. So why didn't somebody stand up and said, this is wrong, let's stop doing it? It It didn't happen. Why not? If it didn't, maybe Quran means something else by the term Dalalun Mubin, manifest wrong. So we will take some examples from our life today and try to understand the meaning of Dalalun Mubin. Look around yourself and see what sort of society you are living in. Are there things in this society which you think are wrong, totally wrong, and the society insists on? Why? Because a majority has accepted it as something acceptable, as the norm. Even if you and I can say that this is wrong, I can say this is wrong. For those people who are involved in it, they don't realize it. This is what Quran means by Dalalun Mubin, a manifest wrong. Let's take an example. Custom.
Like in the schools, they have Jewish holidays, and they don't have any other holidays except for themselves and Jewish people.
Okay, salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Let's take another example. When you came into this country, you probably noticed a few things which were totally wrong, or different at least. Let's not use the word wrong. Which were different. For example, you're sitting in a meeting and you sneeze. What happens? You turn around and say, "Excuse me," as if you made a mistake. You didn't make a mistake. The sneezing is involuntary. But it is a custom in this society that if you sneeze, you turn around and apologize. What is there to apologize? What do we say when somebody sneezes? We say, "May Allah bless you. May Allah bless you. May Allah have mercy on you." But they say, "Excuse me." On the other hand, if somebody wants to blow his nose in the middle of a meeting, he blows his nose right there, which in our opinion is uncultured behavior. If we have to blow our nose, we will go outside and wash ourselves and then come back. This is manifest wrong. We realize it, they don't. They do it. Why? Because the majority has accepted it. This is what Quran means by manifest wrong. Look at the drug abuse. There is so much press about drug abuse. Everybody knows that drug is bad. Intoxicants are bad. But parents teach their children to start drinking. And you talk to them and they say, "Well, we have to teach them. If we don't, they will drink alone and they will drink more and harm themselves. So we have to teach them to drink a little." Drink a little. Because it's a part of social life here. It's social behavior. This is manifest wrong. Everybody knows how much damage alcoholism is doing to this society. Thank God we are not involved in that. But we should not be too complacent about it. We have to insist and explain to our young men and women the harmfulness, the harmful effects of alcoholism and the use of intoxicants. This is a manifest wrong. Go one step further. We all know, you're all grown-up children and you are learning this in school, so I have no bashfulness in saying this, that AIDS is a real problem in this society. And there is sex education going on in schools. And there was a teacher in New York, there is a teacher in New York. He decided that he will talk about the moral side of this whole situation. So he started telling his students that you have to abstain from sex until you reach a certain age. And this is the surest way of saving yourselves from contracting AIDS. Immediately, a society sprang up who said that we will protect the right of the children. You are denying them sex, which is their basic human right. You have no right to tell them not to do it because they have been made that way. And they want it and you can't tell them this. This is a manifest wrong. This is what Quran means by Dalalun Mubin. You go on looking around and you will find one after the other, hundreds of thousands of wrongs. Drug is a problem and there is so much pressure on the countries which produce the drugs from American side, stop growing it. And there is no effort in educating the people that you raise your moral standards and deny yourself from wanting it. This is a world of supply and demand. If you stop the demand, the supply will have to stop. You're trying to stop the supply and you're not doing anything about the demand. It is never going to stop. This is dalal mubin. This is a manifest wrong. They don't realize what they're doing. And that in their opinion, they think they're doing something very good. It's not going to work. This is dalal mubin. It has nothing to do with religion. It is a very general statement. This Quran is making here dalal mubin. People keep doing without realizing how wrong they are going. Let's take an example from the life of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet is sitting among his companions. Hussein is sitting on the one side of his lap. Hassan is sitting on the other side of his lap. And you know how much our Prophet loved the two grandsons. And he bends over and he kisses Hussein's forehead once, and he bends over and kisses Hassan's forehead once. And there is this tribal leader, a very proud old man sitting like this. And he's watching this. And one after the other people start to leave the gathering. Until the Prophet is left alone in that sitting with the two grandsons and this old tribal leader. And then he looks up to the Prophet and he says, "O Prophet of Allah, these two children are very dear to you?" And the Prophet says, "Yes, they're very dear." And he says, "Look at me. I have 6 grown-up sons, and they're very handsome. They're young men. I have not so much as hugged any one of them, let alone kissing them." What is happening here? He is taking pride in not expressing the fatherly love towards his sons. This is Zalalim Mubin. The Prophet is very displeased at this. And he says, if Allah has not put in your heart love and affection for your fellow human being, what can I do? This is Zalalim Mubin. They do something wrong and they take pride in it. This is the highest degree of Zalalim Mubin. That you do wrong, I do wrong, and I take pride in doing that wrong. It was this society the Prophet was sent down or raised to reform. It was this society where the man would take his newborn daughter and take him to the desert and dig a grave and bury her alive. This was the society. And this is the level to which this society had lowered itself. Human beings. They were living like animals, lower than animals. And it was in this society that our Prophet was sent down to preach and raise the spiritual level of these people. So,
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
now you can imagine very well after these examples how difficult, what a difficult task the Prophet had on his hands. It was these people who were so ingrained in their practices, who were so deep-rooted in their rude practices. And it was his task, it was the Prophet's task, to change their thinking completely, make them human beings out of animals. And it was this task which had started with the Prophet and continued with our imams. And it was the same people who came to fight Ali in 3 or 4 different battles. It was the same people who confronted the funeral procession of our second imam as it was proceeding to Jannatul Baqi. And it was the same people who came to confront Hussein in Karbala in the 61st year of Hijrah. Same people. So you will say that did the Prophet not succeed in doing what he wanted to do? Not at all. The Prophet did succeed. He brought the law. But most of all, he left a family behind him. And that is what he said in his last few days, that I am leaving among you 2 valuable things, the Book of Allah and my family, my itra. What was the importance of the itra? You can leave 1,000 books with people, but you cannot force them to read those books. You can leave libraries among people. You cannot force those people to read a single line from a single volume. But if you leave one person who can add something from any of that book, that is equal to thousands of books. One alive personality who can act Allah, any piece of law. That was the importance of leaving a family behind. And it was such a family that if there was a situation where any sacrifice was needed, if they were required, if there was any opportunity that some person will go hungry, they will give their own food and go hungry rather than that one person. However unimportant that person may be. If there was a time to go and fight in the way of Allah to protect Islam, it was this family who came forward. If it was a time when there was money needed, it was this family who came and gave the money. If it was a time when there was a need to give one's life, it was this family who came in the front and gave their lives. And of course, Karbala is the culmination of that great sacrifice this family has produced. Today, we will discuss, not only today, but in all coming nights, I will try to bring you the battles and martyrdoms of those companions of Imam Hussain about whom you hear very little, so that you know at least a better picture of Karbala. You get a better picture of Karbala. You hear about the family of Imam Hussain, the sons, the brothers, the nephews. You hear one companion or two companions. If I ask you names, you will say Habib ibn Zuhair, Zuhair ibn Ahmad, Muslim ibn Aqsida. But there are many more. There are many more. There were at least 72 heads which were raised on the lances at the end of Karbala. And we should take time, we should really take time to speak about each and every one of them, because everyone's sacrifice was great. They were all there together. That's why, I started this discussion with togetherness, and we come back to that. We complete that cycle. And all these people at Karbala were together. One purpose, one aim, one goal, one leader, and that was Hussain ibn Ali. So we have to take time. Now, if you look at our morning practices, we start on the 1st of Muharram, we end it on the 8th of Rabiul Awwal. How many days there are in this? 68 days. It's not even 72. If we divide one person on a day, it's not enough every year. We have to make an effort to try to understand Karbala and try to know each one of them. So today, I'm going to speak to you about another companion of Imam Hussain, who is known as Burair ibn Khuzair Hamadan. Hamadan was a tribe in Kufa, which lived in Kufa, and you know, it was the people of Kufa who originally invited Imam Hussain to come to Kufa and lead them on the right path, because there was no Imam. As Hussain proceeded towards Kufa, Kufa was sealed by the forces of Ibn Ziyad, and nobody was allowed to leave or enter Kufa. But there were some who filtered through these security posts and joined Imam Hussain and fought with Imam Hussain and gave their lives in Karbala. And Burair is among those. Burair is a senior citizen. He is an older man. He is a very knowledgeable man. He is a very pious man. And he is known in Kufa as the leader of the Qurra. Qurra collectively were those people who had learned Quran by heart. Not only the whole Quran, but they were supposed to know which verse of the Quran was revealed where and what it meant. This was the extent of their knowledge. And Burair particularly was a very pious man, and he would stand up all night and pray. And it is said that Burair was one of those few people who would start praying at the time of Isha and complete their prayer, morning prayer, with the same wuzu. This was the extent of his devotion to Allah. Burair was this person. And he comes to fight with Imam Hussain. And Hussain is known to have said about Burair that if I look around in my companions, and the most trustworthy of them all would be Burair. This is the fazila of Burair, Khuzair Hamadan. And it is this Burair, when he sees Horribly, Yazid al-Bayahi getting killed, Burair comes forward, asks Imam Hussein for the permission to go and fight. Hussein gives him permission, he comes forward. Now remember, Burair is from Kufa, and there is a great majority of the soldiers fighting Imam Hussein from Kufa. And there are people from Burair's tribe facing him on the opposite side. So Burair goes in the front and he gives an eloquent speech. And he recites war poetry. And he explains who he is. And he says he's fighting for Imam Hussein. And Hussein is the Khalifa of the Prophet of Allah. And he is the Khalifa of Allah. And he is Wasi Rasul. And you are doing a great wrong fighting Hussein. He is the grandson of the Prophet of Islam. He is the son of Ali. He is the son of Fatima. And you're fighting him? While Burair is speaking, a person from the opposite camp comes forward and he says, Burair, look what Allah has done with you. And Burair says, Allah has done everything good with me. Look what Allah has done with you. And see where you are standing. And this argument goes on a couple of minutes. And then Burair suggests to this man that if you think that you are superior, why don't you and I come together and do a mubahala? Now you all know what mubahala means. When two devout people come together and pray to Allah that whoever is the liar, may Allah's lanat and azab come down upon the liar. And it does, if the prayer is done sincerely, it does come down. This is our belief. This is what mubahala is. So Burair suggests to this enemy, whose name is Yazid, incidentally, he says, Yazid, why don't you and I come together and do a mubahala? And then we fight, and whoever kills the other person is the right, he's on the right. That means he succeeded in the mubahala. And this man agrees. And they pray to Allah that Allah send down your azab on the one who is the liar between the two of us. And they start fighting. And there are a couple of strokes, exchange of strokes with the sword, and then suddenly Burair attacks him over the head with his sword. And his sword goes through him. And he falls. This is a big man. He falls with a big thud. And Burair's sword is stuck in his body. And Burair is trying to pull it off. And he's having some difficulty. While this is going on, a second person comes from his behind and he starts fighting with him. Now Burair has no sword because his sword is stuck in the body of the first man. So Burair is fighting with bare hands. And they're wrestling. And in wrestling, Burair is on top of his enemy. And a third guy comes and strikes Burair in the back with his lance. And Burair bends over with the pain. And this man who was under him, he frees himself and runs away. And Burair, look at Burair. Now he is wounded. He has a lance in his back. And he stands up with this wound. And he goes back to Imam Hussein. Hussein looks at him, prays for him. Burair, you have reserved Jannah for yourself. May Allah accept your sacrifice. But Burair comes back to the battlefield, fights and gets killed. Hussein comes to his side, says words of comfort and blessing to him, and Burair dies. These are the people who have come with Imam Hussein in the plain of Karbala to fight with him and to give their lives. And these are our examples in our lives to follow. May Allah give you a good sense, courage and strength to understand Karbala and follow the martyrs of Karbala in your life. Wa alaikum assalam.